Hi fellow crafters, welcome to the Erudite Artist YouTube channel. My name is Janice and I'll be showing you a tutorial on how I created this steampunk themed discbound mixed media mini album. So I'm going to be using some graphic 45 papers and I'm going for the papers that have blue colors on it. I'm using the 12 by 12 Cityscapes collection, specifically Map the Past, Global Odyssey, and Passport to the World. Okay, so I cut up these papers into 6 by 6 inch squares, and I have about 6 papers here that will be composing my entire album. I glued in 2 of these papers onto blue foam sheets about the same size, and I punched in holes on the left side of the papers. So I don't have any of those disc-bound punchers, so I just did this manually with a regular puncher and just snipped in a small cut on the sides of each hole. Alright, so just to show you how it looks like when the discs are in place, this is how it will be once it's all done. But I'm going to remove the discs later on once I start working on the pages. So before we start, the first thing that I do is prepare these cogs and clockwork wood chips and turning them into kind of like rusty look to them, but instead of the usual brown or reddish brown look of the rust, I'm using some blue shades for this project. So I'm using some white modeling paste, a heavy gesso will also work for this one, and just coating the wood chips. Best do it unevenly, that way it gives some texture and dimension to the cogs. And I'm going to start sprinkling in some white glitter while it hasn't dried in yet. Now once all that is dry, I just paint it over with some different shades of blue paint. I'm using watercolors for this project simply because it's the medium I am most comfortable with. And I also use some water-based metallic paints to add in some shimmer. So I prepared about 20 or more of these wood chips before I dove into decorating the pages. Alright, so I'm ready with the cogs and clockwork items to make the steampunk theme of this album. Now let's move on to the layouts of each page. I'm starting with the cover of the album. I used one of the papers and cut it at about 5 by 5 inches and tore it up to give it a bit of a distressed look to the paper. And I just layered in a piece of lace and the doily. Then I added in some flowers and fuzzy cuts. To make sure to add in more dimension to the layout, I simply added some of the extra scraps of foam sheets and just glued each one accordingly. The center of my cover is just a pile of the cogs glued into this piece of watercolor paper. It follows the same steps as I did with the wood chips individually, except this one is done in a larger cluster. simply splattering on some blue paint and added in a few washes of it here and there for added touch. Then I added in a few more of the wood chips and a bit of some of the metal cogs to finish off the look. Now, before I move on to the inside pages of my album, let me just add in this simple fuzzy cut onto the back cover. Later on, I'll add in a few more touches maybe to this part. So let's move on to the first page of the album. I'm going to layer on a piece of doily at the center, along with some of the cogs again from earlier, a flower, a few fuzzy cuts, and ephemera. I'm also using a chipboard sticker with wordings to create my cluster. I'm moving on to the next page of my album, so this time I'll be designing a full spread. So the first thing that I do is use some modeling paste and a stencil to add some design to the background. Once that's dry, I'm going to add in a watercolor wash to the area that I stenciled over. Once all that is dry, it's time to layer on once again some fuzzy cuts, these papers I distressed, and of course the cogs. I'm also adding in some gems for added touch. Alright, so we're done with that. We are now going to move on to our last set of pages. I just glued in a few papers and a doily to the background. I'm again using a stencil and some modeling paste. I'm skipping putting any paint on this part to vary the designs for each page, and just using the rest of my cogs and clockwork chips, plus a flower, then another fuzzy cut and a chipboard sticker to complete this spread. last bits to do for this album is to glue in the last page of the back cover. Now, I mentioned earlier on that I'm adding in a bit of an embellishment to the back cover. This is a die cut I had stored for quite some time and I wanted to make use of it. I covered the holes though, so I had to repunch the areas again. Moving on to the front cover, I glued in the remaining undecorated paper to the back of it. I also added in a sort of open pocket or a slip-in area here just to add in some decoration. Once all of that is done, I'm going to reattach the discs. And this is my album. Let me just give you a flip through of the finished product. And there you have it. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you liked it, and please do subscribe to my channel. That's youtube.com/theeruditeartist. Don't forget to like and comment, and do follow me on Facebook and Instagram. That's @JVEruditeArtist. And I'll see you on the next video. Have a nice day!